Hey, what's up, guys? It's Coach Mac, playfastfootball.blogspot.com. Today we're going to take a little look at speeding up the process for your quarterback and kind of understanding how you can give him some things in his pre-snap reads with defensive structures that might help him speed up the process of getting the football out of his hand and hopefully making the right decisions when he does get the football out of his hand. I think one of the things we got to look at when talking about teaching our quarterback is getting him to understand and see the things that we're seeing and trying to get on the same page with your quarterback so that he understands the routes and the plays that you're calling, and then he understands what he believes to be the intentions of the defense, so that we can speed the process up so that his reads occur quicker so that the ball can get out of his hand on time. All right, but also so that the ball can get out of his hand where it belongs based on the structure of what the defense is trying to do. I think one of the things you really have to understand, and the way I approach the passing game, is the defense really dictates to me where the football is going to be thrown. I know that I'm calling the route concept, and I know that I'm calling the formations, but at the same time, the defense ultimately, depending on the structure of it and how they try to defend, they're ultimately going to decide the throws that should be there. Okay, the ball comes out of the quarterback's hands, and he's the one that throws the ball to a certain spot. But in all reality, it's actually the defense, all right, who is determining where that ball is going to go for the quarterback. So, when you call a curl slide concept, or you call a hitch corner smash concept, or you call a flood sail concept, you know the routes you're running. Okay, but at the same time, 3 plays in a row, the ball might go to 3 different places depending on the concept that the defense is trying to play. So really, the way I approach it is I think the defense determines where the football goes, and the quarterback, all right, he's just a translator of what the defense is trying to communicate to him, and he then throws the football off of what he sees and translates from the defense. So now, to me, in the passing game, my goal is, as a head coach, okay, and as an offensive coordinator, and as a former quarterback coach, I need to get what's in my head into my quarterback's head, okay? And then I also need him to process things in a fashion that allow us, all right, to effectively get the ball out on time. So the more I can speed up the process for him, all right, the better chance I have of getting him to understand how to get the football out on time, all right, and where the football should go, okay? So what we have to look at is we have to look at the certain tells that the defense may give us in their structure, all right, to alert us what their intentions are. Now, when you talk pre-snap and post-snap, when you're facing good defensive coordinators and good defensive football teams, their pre-snaps and post-snaps aren't always going to look the same. Their goal is to show you one thing and play something else because they're trying to fool the play caller and the quarterback into throwing something that's not actually there. Okay? But you still have to understand from your quarterback's perspective, he has to have some type of notion pre-snap to speed the process of his post-snap reads up. All right? So I'd just like to go through just some simple things, all right, that might help you identify some things to your quarterback, just some simple things that, defensively identify what their intentions are and what the structures of the defense are, okay? I've got 2x2 drawn up in a pistol set. This is our standard 2x2 set, all right, so our quarterback has to understand how to operate from this set and how to ID and identify coverages, what they may be, so that he can understand where the football needs to go. Okay, so I've got it drawn up right now to just a standard 2-high shell, standard 2-high structure. All right. Now, the first way that I have it drawn up, okay, is to a 2-high structure with corners off the ball, okay, and both apex linebackers inside the number 2 receiver. Okay, so what that tells me as an offensive coach, okay, is that tells me that the 2-high structure is a middle of the field open concept, okay? But the 2-high structure doesn't necessarily tell me what the coverage is going to be, because that could be cover 2, it could be 2 read, it could be quarters, it could be robber, okay? It could be man under 2 deep. So the too high structure, all right, tells me that the middle of the field is open. It tells me that it's a too high concept, but it doesn't exactly tell me the coverage. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to progress to with my quarterback is I'm going to say, okay, let's look at the depth and the leverage of the corners. Okay? So right here, if I have the corners drawn up at 7 or 8 yards off and a yard outside the number 1 receiver, okay, that now tells me that this is going to be probably some type of quarters concept or some type of two-read concept, okay, because of the positioning of the corner. Now again, that's not what the corner has to play. We're just trying to get an idea of what he's trying to play based on his leverage, depth, and position. Okay? The next thing I go to is I go to the backers that are apexed inside the number 2 receiver. Okay? The important thing for the quarterback to understand, all right, the important thing for the quarterback to understand is with the linebackers or safeties, whoever they may be, whoever the drop-down overhang backers are, when they're inside of number 2, that's going to give you a real definitive idea of what their responsibility is. Okay? Generally speaking, from inside of number 2, this is not going to be the flat player. Okay? He's not going to be the flat player. And from inside number 2, he's probably some type of hook player, okay, that may deliver himself later to the flat, but he's not the initial flat player in that defense. Okay? So when I see the overhangs inside of number 2, all right, with a too high structure, I now know that I'm probably getting more of a two-read palms type of coverage. Okay? Corners off, safeties inside number 2. Okay? Safeties maybe 10 yards off and not 16 yards off. Okay? So depth and leverage of corner, leverage of overhang backer, depth and leverage of safety has now taken that too high structure and has narrowed the possibilities of that too high structure down, in my opinion, of what the coverages might be. Okay? Now, within the same diagram, very simply, moving the corners up, okay, moving the corners up to about 4 or 5 yards, and effectively taking these safeties and moving them back to maybe 14, with overhang apex linebackers still inside number 2, okay? Now to me, that presents a completely different, all right, a completely different issue in the coverage for my quarterback, okay? What that's now telling me is with the corner rolled down harder and the safety back deeper, that's probably a traditional cover 2 or a Tampa 2, okay? It's still a too high, middle of the field open structure, all right? But now instead of it being a two-read or a palm structure, that now identifies to me that this is probably a true flat player with a true half player with a true hook to curl player, okay? Maybe a Mike that runs and closes the middle of the field in a Tampa 2 situation, all right? But it lets me now define for the quarterback a lot quicker, depending on the concept we're trying to throw, where the windows are in that coverage, okay? All right? Now, if for whatever reason now, let's say you get the apex linebacker outside of 2 with the corner inside of 1, okay, and now the safety may be further inside of number 2, all right? For argument's sake, we'll leave both linebackers in the box, okay, and you know, depending on where the ball's in the middle of the field, let's say this corner's here and this free safety is back there, okay? That now presents a completely different concept to my quarterback. So when I'm teaching my quarterback, now what I'm going to tell him is, all right, now the overhang backer is outside of number 2. If they're placing him outside of number 2, there's a reason for that, okay? And what we're going to assume is they're placing him outside number 2 so that he can help the curl flat a lot quicker and get under number 1 a lot quicker, okay? If they're placing the corner inside of number 1, okay, that tells me 1 to 2 things. Either it's a man structure and they're playing all of number 1 man, or it might be a Robert type defense where this corner is going to play the deep half with this strong safety robbing off the number 2 receiver here, with the Sam, all right, now playing curl flat, and then depending on how the defensive coordinator philosophically feels about it, whether or not this guy plays the wheel routes or if they turn the wheel routes over to the deep half player. But that look right there with an inside corner, an inside safety, okay, and an outside apex linebacker tells me that that's probably more of a quarters or a robber structure and not a cover two concept. Now on the backside though, they leave a hard corner with a free safety 16 yards deep. So now on this side, I think I'm getting a hard traditional cover two concept, but on this side it leads me to believe that I'm getting some type of robber concept, okay? So again, what we're looking at is we're looking at the positioning and the depth of the corners, the positioning and the depth of the safeties, and the positioning of the apex linebacker, because to me, those are all tells of what your intentions are on defense, okay? Now, ultimately, you're gonna game plan and scout all your opponents, because all your opponents, they will play what they're going to play, all right? There's not too many people that make up a new defense every week and play something different. So when you're scouting a team, you'll start to understand whether they play quarters, robber, cover two, cover three, all right? So all your work is going to go into your game plans. But when we're teaching our quarterback to identify these things, these are the steps you want to go through with him, okay? You want to start with, is it too high, one high, middle of the field, open or closed? Then you want to progress to depth and leverage of corners, depth and leverage of safeties, leverage of overhang linebackers. Those are the tells, okay? Those are the specifics that are going to alert your quarterback, all right, to how they are going to defend certain routes, and more importantly for the quarterback, what routes against those concepts, okay, might be open and where the ball should go and get delivered quicker, all right? So let's look at that for argument's sake. Let's just look at traditional, all right, curl, slide, curl flat, curl spot flat, versus the 3 too high structures that I just talked about, okay? So if we were to go back to the first structure we talked about, all right, and maybe it was a 2-read palms concept, apex linebackers were inside of number 2, corners were off and outside of 1. Safeties were corners are about maybe 7 by 1. Safeties are about 10 by 1, okay? Inside of number 2, so they're maybe 10 by 1 inside of 2, okay? Corner over here is in the same thing, 7 by 1. Safety over here is in the same thing. All right. All right, he's 10 by 1. Okay, so again, I'm deducing to my quarterback, logically trying to reason and tell him that I think it's going to be some type of palms or 2-read coverage. Okay, that means that I think the corner is going to read number 2. If 2 comes to the flat, I think the corner is going to come off 2, and it's going to become almost a standard 2-high concept. Okay, if 2 goes vertical, I think the corner and the safety are just going to match the 1 and 2 receivers, and it's going to turn into more of a man concept. From inside of number 2, I'm assuming that this player is going to be an inside wall of 2 hook player until something delivers him to the flat. So now when we run, okay, curl, spot, flat, okay, in that concept of coverage, okay, I am assuming, all right, that the Mike linebacker is going to widen to cover the spot. I'm assuming that the Sam linebacker is going to try the best he can to not let 2 cross his face, but as 3 comes to the flat, he's going to have to expand with 3, okay? And based off the release of 2, I'm assuming that the corner is going to be over the deep half of that, and this safety will probably get a chance to rob the post-dig curl, okay, of, all right, the number 1 receiver's routes coming back to the inside, because 2 went inside, all right, and if he doesn't have to play 2 inside, he can now, all right, double in that concept the number 1 receiver. So now I'm telling my quarterback that we should have a pretty good curl flat read on this outside linebacker, okay, unless the safety is a kid that can rob post-dig curl, okay. But what I'm trying to explain to my quarterback is I'm trying to explain to him that because of the apex linebacker here, because of the depth and leverage of the corner, and because of the safety, all right, I'm trying to give my quarterback an idea how they might play that concept out of that coverage. Okay? Because I still think, unless they have a real aggressive, all right, smart and explosive safety, I still think we have a good curl window here, because I think we're going to hold the mic on the spot. All right? I think the corner's got honor. All right, the outside deep routes, and I think we're going to put an inside-outside read on that Sam linebacker. All right, and to me, the guy in the bind there is how much can that strong safety effectively rob the post-dig curl window. Okay, so I'm telling my quarterback that I think curl spot flat against that coverage. Okay, I think the curl flat window is pretty good, and I think it should still be an effective concept. Okay, now if I were to draw up a too deep, traditional too deep defense now, okay, with a corner that was rolled up and a safety that was further back off the half, okay, now I think I've got an absolutely dead play that should never be completed into that version of coverage. Now I'm trying to tell my quarterback that, hey, this corner, okay, is up in the flat, so he's probably going to sink. If two's going vertical, he's going to sink, but he's going to hang in the flat, so the back is going to deliver himself right to the corner, okay? I think that this Sam is going to hang right in the hook curl, because if the corner's a flat, the Sam linebacker is not going to expand to the flat. So I think the Sam is going to hang in this hook curl. I think the Mike's going to eat up the spot, and I think that play into that coverage, if the defense runs it effectively, I think that play is 0 for 10. Every 10 times you try and throw it into that coverage. Okay? That's if they play it correctly on paper. Okay? So right there, two high structures, but one of them being two reader palms and one of them being straight Tampa cover 2, that curl slide philosophy, it has two completely different looks to the quarterback. Okay? We think we've got a real good shot at leveraging the Sam when it was two reader palms. But I think I'm absolutely dead in the water if it's traditional cover 2. Okay? If it's traditional cover 2. All right? Now, the other structure we talked about was maybe Rob. Okay? Was maybe they're playing robber, where maybe now the corner is inside of 1 at about 9 or 10. Okay? So maybe he's 9 by 1 inside. And now the apex linebacker is outside of 2. Okay, so this guy is now outside of 2, and now the safety is somewhere, inside, okay, and maybe 8 by 1 inside of number 2. So now I think I'm getting some type of robber structure. Okay, all right. So now again, all right, I think I've got a pretty good play, all right, with the ability. All right, if this corner is going to be off on the half, and this safety is going to rob off of 2, all right, when 2 removes himself as a vertical threat, this guy's got a longer run to get to that post-dig curl window, okay? And now by being outside of 2, I think that this guy, all right, is now a curl flat player that we can put in a bind, all right, with the curl route and the swing route by the running back. Okay. Now, if he's a well-taught defensive player, he's going to hold the curl as long as he can and make you throw, all right, the swing route to the tailback, and then he's going to rally and tackle. Okay. If he's not a well-taught player, he's going to run right to the back and he's going to open up the curl window all day long. But I still think I have an effective play. Okay, I still think I have an effective play with the curl spot flat theory into a robber concept on defense. Okay, I think the Micah would be probably a little bit further over here. I think he's going to get eaten up by the spot. Okay, and I think the curl window between the Sam, all right, the curl and the flare between that outside apex number 2 Sam linebacker, I think we can still put a lot of stress on that kid. Okay, and I think, all right, that unless this kid is just absolutely an All-American and a war daddy, I still think that he won't be able to get to the curl effectively. Now, as an offensive coach, if he is an All-American and he is a war daddy and he can play the curl, okay, and I think I'm getting that concept, take the 2 and run them on post. Because if you're getting a robber concept or a possible palms concept, if he's responsible for 2 vertical, take him out of there with 2 vertical, and now run your curl swing on the Sam linebacker. If you think the corner's a deep half player in a robber concept, now run curl flat on that Sam linebacker and see if the Mike linebacker can run all the way through the curl. Okay? So again, you have to have answers on offense based on coverages, but today our talk is trying to identify the coverages to your quarterback so that he can process them a little bit simpler. Okay? Now, you know, you may see, although you don't see it too much anymore because of 4 verticals and some other things, but, you know, there's still a possibility that you may see, okay, some type of middle of the field closed, all right, concept, where it's a 1 high, okay, middle of field closed. In other words, there's 1 high safety, okay, and the middle of the field is dead closed because that safety takes it away. Okay? All right? So now, right away, what you're teaching your quarterback is it's a 1 high structure. All right? So we're assuming that we're going to get some type of 3 deep or man free. Okay? Corners are 8, 7, 8, 9 off, and they're outside of number 1. Okay? But there's 2 overhang backers. Okay, and they're either slightly inside to head up to slightly outside of 2, okay, but because there's 2 backers with only 1 high safety, okay, now what we're telling our quarterback, all right, is you can now assume that you're probably getting some type of concept, all right, where you're getting a deep third with a curl flat, with a hook curl, with a hook curl, with a curl flat. Okay? So now, when we see the 1 high structure, and now we run the curl play, now we think, okay, this is almost the exact coverage the play was designed for. Now we've got everything we want. Because it's a 1 high structure, there is no robbing the post-dig curl. That kid cannot help the curl route, all right, for the corner. So now, because of the structure, we feel like the spot eats up the Mike linebacker in the hook, and now we are just going to put all the leverage on the curl flat defender for him to make up his mind, okay? For him to make up his mind whether he wants to defend the curl and rally to the flat, or if he has to defend the flat, okay? Defend the flat there, okay? And at the same time, all right, defend the curl. Good defensive player is going to defend the deeper route first, let you throw that. Okay? So now, we've identified that. We've identified what we think the structure is. Okay? We've identified what we think the structure is. We've identified what we think we like to that structure. We like the curl slide. Okay? One of the adjustments you can make, okay, is now you can run curl wheel and see if the curl flat player is the guy that carries the wheel. In most defensive concepts, the flat player is responsible for the wheel. So now what I can do is now I can run curl wheel out of this 1 high structure, see if I can get the curl flat player to carry the wheel, all right? And if the curl flat player carries the wheel, now I can get my back on your Mike linebacker in space, because now as he has no hook player, he's going to expand to the curl, okay? And then he would ultimately have to rally to the ball thrown in the flat if I can get the strong safety to carry the wheel route. So again, once we've identified to our quarterbacks that it's a 1 high structure, all right, and now that they have 2 drop-down outside linebackers, we think they're curl flat players, and we think they're hook curl players, okay? Now we can identify the things we like on offense, all right, and that same curl spot flat, all right, curl slide spot, however you want to run it, that same theory should be extremely good against 1 high structures, okay? And then the adjustment to that, instead of curl post, might be curl wheel to give us a more advantageous situation, okay? Now, there's no way I can fully teach to you in 25 or 30 minutes of a whiteboard segment how to define coverages for your quarterback. My intentions today were just to give you what some of the tells are in coverages that'll help you talk to your quarterback to speed his process up. All right? It takes months upon months upon months upon years to get your quarterbacks to fully understand defensive coverages. I mean, shoot, it takes years to get offensive coaches to understand defensive coverages. You know, there's a lot of offensive coaches out there that are calling plays that have no idea of what the defensive structures are. Okay? So it's going to take a ton of time to teach your quarterback. I can't do it in a 30-minute video, but hopefully what I can do is trigger some things in your head, at least to help trigger some things into your quarterback's head. Depth and leverage of the corners. 1 or 2 high safeties. Depth, okay, or apex leverage of the outside overhang players. Okay? What are the common 2 high structures you're going to see? What are the common 1 high structures you're going to see? Okay? There's got to be a starting point. You got to start somewhere, but teaching coverages to your quarterback and then teaching your passing concepts based on those coverages, okay, that is a process that takes years to develop. And in high school, that's a process that hopefully we can get developed by 11th or 12th grade. We'd like to start in the 9th grade with baby steps, get them developed by 11th or 12th grade. In the NFL, you hear them talk all the time about rookie quarterbacks and how long it takes them. So it's a process. All right, hopefully today I've given you some things that help you identify a little bit quicker for your quarterback what the intentions of the defense might be. Okay? At another time, another blog, we might be able to get into to start talking about how to effectively attack those different coverages that you're seeing. What you like against palms, what you like against robber, what you like against 1 high, what you like against cover 2. Okay? Because even with just a simple curl spot flat, all right, hopefully I've showed you how that play into cover 2 is basically dead in the water, but yet into palms, robber, or 1 high, it can still be a very good, effective theory. Okay? Again, the idea behind all of this is let's find a way to simply teach our players so that they can identify faster, which means if he can identify faster, he can get the ball out of his hand faster. If he can get the ball out of his hand faster and identify faster, ultimately he can play faster. All right? That's the goal of everything we're trying to do. All right? Is to get our kids to play faster. All right? Keep that in mind, guys. I'll catch you next time. You won't play well until you play fast.